Time for some live music, and a welcome to the studio, The Little Kicks. Welcome, folks.
How you doing? You alright?
Good, yes. Stephen, how are you? You alright?
Absolutely brilliant.
I'm really glad that you've come in, because I know it's going to be a good year for you. There's a wonderful new album, which we'll talk about, which is coming out soon. But before we hear the first tune and then we start chatting, do you want to introduce the rest of your band for everyone listening?
The Motley Crew.
The Motley Crew, yeah, indeed.
Is myself, Stephen Milne on guitar, keys and vocals. We have Andrew Corse on guitar and vocals, Adam Morris on bass and vocals, an occasional bass synth, and Scott Cameron on drums.
So we started talking about the album in its very early embryonic form 6 months, maybe even longer than that, before we even set foot into the lodge. And we talked about recording it again down at my studio in Edinburgh at the depot, and locking ourselves away for a couple of weeks and getting it done there. But I felt that this time round, having done the last 2 albums with the band, that we really needed to do something different, so we would have a story attached to it. All my favourite recordings that I've ever done, all the music that I've made that I love the most and hold dearest to my heart and think about all the time, and all the records that I love, they've all got stories attached to them.
I guess we spent a good 6 months, maybe even 9, in the practice room working on ideas and things in our space together. I would take ideas in, and some of them were more collaborative. We'd work on them as a unit, and the others had been demoed beforehand, and we would spend a lot of time way before we went anywhere near the lodge working out what we were going to do in terms of arrangement, the sounds we wanted to use, the type of music we wanted to make. I guess with this album, the general feeling of it was to be more upbeat and more positive, and Pretty Loving Fuck Me was quite well received, but it was a bit of a grower in terms of people seemed to get it the more they lived with it for a bit longer. I think it was a bit more immediate and generally a bit more upbeat across the whole board, really. Adam joining the band added a lot to things vocally, and opened us up to doing 3-part vocals and things that we couldn't do before, and just bringing the songs in a bit earlier to the room so everyone's a bit more involved. It's probably a new thing, maybe.
Before we actually went to record at the lodge, I had an idea of, I wanted to basically make my drums sound like Fleetwood Mac or the Beatles, or basically just old vintage recordings, but their drums have always sounded great. So I went down to the studio in Edinburgh with Craig, and me and Craig just basically experimented. So like, I knew exactly when we went to do a song that I was going to have an amount of dampening, or how I was going to, or which kits I was going to use for which songs, because we basically explored it all before. And then obviously I recorded all this stuff and then notated it to myself so I could take reference of it, and then the guys just took the piss.
Here's the Gretsch as it was, with no moon gel and the original snare.
Well, quickly, to be fair, we're in the pub on a Friday night, and this folder appears in the shared Dropbox where we share our ideas, called Drum Pre-Production, and we've had maybe a couple of pints, and our band room is not far from the pub that we happen to be in, so we decided that we should reply with some synth pre-production and film us putting various different amounts of dampening on the synth.
This is an MS-10 with a yellow duster and a little bit of moon gel.
Which obviously doesn't really make any sense.
Well,
an electronic instrument.
It's a serious process,
yeah.
and now the record sounds the way it sounds, so I think it was worth it.
It was worth the time.
Worth the time spent.
I think the main reasoning to record in the lodge was probably to get away from any potential distraction and to be allowed to record 24/7 without interruption. Budget-wise, in comparison to recording at the depot in Edinburgh, which is an amazing space, the lodge took away that expense of any accommodation or living costs that you usually incur while living in Edinburgh, and also nullified the chance of any distraction too by being so remote. It's also a very beautiful setting to spend any time in. Like there is something about, I don't know if it's us or if it's the setup that we had or whatever, but
I found that we got more creative as the hours went on. So like if you were waking up late morning, nobody was particularly in the zone, but by the time 2-3 o'clock in the morning came around, we were right into it. And there was often, on more than one occasion, we were still going till 5-6 o'clock in the morning because things were really happening. And that's great. The thing about the lodge is that it allows you the time to do that, whereas in the recording studio you would have been home by 9 o'clock at night. There was no limits.
Shake, 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 better, better. Shake, shake, shake off your woes and troubles. Bang, bang, bang the drum slowly. Shake, shake, shake off your woes.
The lodge was not set out for recording. We had to find a way to make it so it was. And Scott and the guys came back after Scott, I think, had initially found the place and described how it was, had a wee idea of where we could have the live room and things, and on paper it looked like it was going to work. So it was then down to me to spec the studio in a way that we would be able to get in there quickly and within 12 hours be recording the album. And we didn't indulge too much. We did work constantly, and hangovers didn't get in the way. Certainly for me, it was as soon as I got up, I was just ready to go. There was no time to waste when we were there. We needed to get the album tracked, so it was get up and go throughout the entire day.
Shake, 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 shake your ball. Shake, shake, shake your ball. Bang, bang, bang your drum slowly. Shake, shake, shake your ball. Stop trying to run the song.
What are you guys up to? It doesn't look very good.
I'm just doing a bit of work, working from home. Busy
Try to
lad.
make an automated spreadsheet that works out a football tournament. First blood to Craig! And a away goal as well.
Is that going to come into it?
Oh, might do.
In the knockout stages.
Head to head.
Where's the small one?
He's still fuming after his latest defeat.
Oh no. They seem pretty busy.
So what's happening?
This isn't actually a pose, this is how I was sitting when you shoved that camera in my face. I'm practicing guitars in the hope that these synths will be recorded shortly, and then I can finish off my contribution and party with the rhythm section.
Hours later.
What's going on?
I think we're done. After we'd been in the lodge, we went to the depot, which is where we've usually previously recorded all of our albums in Edinburgh, and we went there for the rest of the summer to finish off recording the guitars, the synths, and we redid some vocals, we did more percussion, and one of the most notable things we did was get a string section in, so we employed the Cairn String Quartet to play on 5 tracks. We had the string parts for some songs already demoed and scored on paper so that we could get the most out of the quartet coming in for the day, and we only aimed to really get 3 or 4 songs. We ended up getting 5 that were really good to work with, and having them in the studio really took the songs to the next level and was the icing on the cake of the recordings, really, to be honest. We've never had professional strings on our records before. We've had Rory from Broken Records, who's obviously a very good musician, but we've never had a quartet, and we felt like the songs would really benefit from such a thing. So some of the demos had kind of arranged string parts but played on a keyboard, so we got our friend Diarmaid to score them properly and professionally so we could take them to a quartet and get them to play them in the studio. And we'd previously spoken to Cairn String Quartet, who were based in the Central Belt, to do some stuff as a collaboration. So they were pretty keen, so we got them in for 2 days, or a day, and somehow managed to get 5 tracks out of them, which was amazing. But there's something really special about being in the studio and hearing your music come to life in that way. There was quite a few moments where they were playing and we were in another booth and they would say, "How's that sounding to us?" And we were kind of literally just pretty much speechless, because it just sounded so beautiful. And we were like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Just do another take. Thanks very much. Cool." Like, it's really hot in here, isn't it? Kind of like really awkward. 3 lads, but it was really special getting them involved, and they're really good as well, and really added a different level to this kind of the finishing touch on, particularly like the Often track or Gone But Not Forgotten. The strings just lift it at a totally different level, I think. It's so Scottish.
What?
It's so Scottish.
Shake off your woes!
Shake off your woes! Does it sound alright?
There were some tweaks that were needing done, some parts to be re-recorded, and quite a few parts that hadn't been recorded at the lodge because we ran out of time. For example, I had a couple of guitar lines to redo. The chorus part for Before We Were Friends wasn't sitting quite right, so we spent a bit of time working on that in the depot until we were happy with that. Don't Get Mad, Get Even, the guitar line for that, had left the lodge sounding a bit rockier than it had intended, so we simplified that and paired it back in the studio at the depot. Also then layered it up with violin played by Adam and piano played by Stevie. I do remember doing the gang vocals though for Bang the Drums Slowly, as that was a good laugh. And other than that, it was just a whole lot of mixing.
So obviously we wanted to get a good master of the album, and where better to do it than Abbey Road. So we did a bit of research into the engineers, and I think just obviously Abbey Road offers this nice analog vintage gear mastering service. It's like an online service. It's really good. You just basically send them your audio and choose which engineer you want to do it, and then they'll send it back like a week later. So we chose a guy called Geoff Pesche, who's really good, experienced, and done massive albums. And we just felt what he was into would probably be the best fit for us. So we chose him, and it was great. And then we had a little edit as well, and he was great. He just came back and said, "Yeah, no worries, sort that," and then gave us it back again. So it was really good, and we're really happy with the outcome of it.
Scott had a very clear idea of using a lot of colours and shadow, kind of following on from the last album's artwork, but being different, a bit tying in some way. He wanted to position white light with shadows filtered on each other to give a sort of half filter effect. We originally tried this in his house, and it would basically worked with coloured lights, but we ended up doing it in the Elementary studio, and then presented the photographs taken by our friend Nick Mailer of us standing in front of this effect to Michael CHANG, who's doing all the artwork, who then half-toned the patterns, and worked on the photos as in the way he does, which is creative sort of mind, and turned it into something really cool. He spent a lot of time working on the effects of the halftone pattern and the way the colours would sit together and the way you could get us to stand together and things, and the way the record comes across, and the design's quite important to us. So across all the single artwork, the album artwork and the videos, we tried to make it have a cohesive font and the same look, so that it all looks like it's part of the same release. And Michael's been great for helping us achieve that.
I mean, artwork wise, I think to use their faces, putting themselves in the front line, as it were, on the cover, seemed to work best in my head. And I think it took a bit of convincing, but it just meant that everything tied in together, so it just worked, you know. So yeah, put a bit of their faces like.
Having the vinyl ordered was amazing because it's basically like Christmas when it arrives. The record being on vinyl is important for us. Getting the last one on vinyl was a big deal, and people seemed to respond to that and like to buy it on vinyl. So the new one, when it arrived, was very special. It's quite cool to see all this work and hours we put in to be on one little disc for people to own and have at their house. So for the video shoots, we went to the local company Creopix and Croas Productions, who had the idea of doing something in motion capture by using the RGU studios. They'd never really worked with that format before, and it's not something that's in our comfort zone either. So we went down there for a day, and the original idea was to be like robots, where we would dance and we'd be turned into robots. But the guys thought it was quite cool to have skeletons, and then by a twist of fate, the single came out on Halloween, so that was quite a nice tie-in. We went into that pretty blind because other than dance about a bit and change it to look like something, we didn't really have a brief, really. And everything you do on it has to be exaggerated, so you think you're moving quite fluidly and dancing to a certain level. You need to double it, which is not in our comfort zone whatsoever. So thankfully my sister, who's a dance teacher, came down and did a bit of saving the day and did some pretty cool moves. And at the end of that first day, we had some downtime and we still had the space and all our gear in the van. So we did a Goodbye Enemies video, which was a performance style thing, which has had a really good reception, I think, and looked really classy, and we felt really chuffed for that one, to be honest. So yeah, the two videos that we did initially were pretty well received, and then we've done the third for Don't Get Mad, which someone else can speak about. Or do you want me to speak about it?
Yeah, don't get mad.
Just get even, mate. So Don't Get Mad, Get Even was a strange song because I had it on my phone for about 2 years and I didn't really know what to do with it, and it wasn't even in the pile for the album to be worked on when we went to the lodge to a very late stage where we needed one more song, and I sent it in to the guys as a guitar riff with me sort of saying to them, I don't really know what to do with this, but this is a riff. And then suddenly, very quickly after, I had a verse and a chorus, and I managed to piece together a structure for it. So I basically pieced together a very quick demo, sent it around and said, this could be another song we could work on, if anyone's got any thoughts.
Sonically, it was a bit of a worry going to the lodge because it was uncharted territory. We weren't sure if it would all come together, and when we kind of were listening back to Don't Get Mad, that's kind of when it all, I think Craig just spent a bit of time in the sounds, getting it all kind of pulled together in a better place, and then suddenly we're like, alright, everything is actually sounding good.
We had a sort of pre-concept meeting, if you will, where 2 or 3 of the team, the Crow House team, kind of spoke us through various ideas, and we had the opportunity to sort of pass comment and say which we liked the best. And they took one of those ideas away and drew up a sort of script that they ran past us to make sure that we were happy with. And then when we gave them the go-ahead on the script, they were basically left to go away, produce what I think is an amazing video for Don't Get Mad.
It's pretty cool to have a heap of actors for your video. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many of them were there. It looks about 20 of them.
It's also quite interesting as well to have someone listen to your music and get something completely different to it. Like, we tried deliberately not to get too involved because they did have a meeting. We're like, what's the song about? And we were like, don't really want to say because it's maybe more interesting if we find out what you think the song is about.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of the most interesting things about working with those guys. It's their interpretation of our work, which is pretty cool. Now that we're at the point where the single launches have all happened and all the songs that we've released so far have been so well received, it's pretty exciting to be at the stage where the album's waiting to come out. It seems like a really long time in the past that we went to that lodge and lived there for 10 days, and I think back to that time as probably very sort of rose-tinted, but it was a great experience for us all, and living there for 10 days and working on the record non-stop was amazing. And we came home totally exhausted, but hopefully we'll get to do it again in the future. I would do it all again in a heartbeat, and I think all the time that's been put into the record will hopefully show when people hear it, and all the post-production stuff at the depot and the work we've put in to making it sound the way it sounds. You know, everything's been thought and triple checked and thought through and really made sure to be good. Certainly we're really happy with it, and we just can't wait for everyone to hear it, and we hope they feel the same way too.
The new record, Shake Off Your Troubles, is the best yet. The songwriting, the craftsmanship, the instrumentation, the production, it's all there. And if artists and filmmakers and so on can get better and better as they go through their careers, then why not musicians, you know?